Did we improve cheap whiskey? Stay tuned and find out. Welcome back to Barrels and Bark. I'm Zach. Thank you so much for tuning in and watching this. If you like what we're doing and you're following our videos, please subscribe, like, and comment. We'd love for you to follow us. Hey, we're back for part 2 of how do we improve cheap whiskey. We spent 2 weeks with an experiment, and if you haven't watched it yet, you can check it out up here, follow along, and you can see what we did. For the most part, what we did is we took a bottle of Evan Williams, about 15 bucks, and we put a black tea bag in and let it sit for 10 minutes. We removed the tea bag, and then we added one of those oak stave sticks, and we've let it sit for 2 weeks in the bottle. I've emptied it and filtered it out, and that is what is in this glass right here. And then we've got a control bottle here of Evan Williams that we've also poured into here with nothing. It's just the control bottle, and we're going to compare the two. And so let's jump in and see how these differ. So glass one here, let's go for a smell. Again, good bourbon, what I consider, again, like I said last time, classic bourbon smells. You get oak, you get a little bit of rye, you get that caramel, vanilla. Good smell. It's not super strong. Again, it's nice, smooth, very sweet with a little bit of oak. Now, let's go in for glass 2 here, the improved whiskey. Right off the bat, you get a lot of cinnamon. That cinnamon, black tea, that tea really comes out. You get a lot more vanilla, though. I would say you get that vanilla cinnamon flavor, but it's kind of that herbal cinnamon, if that makes sense. The oak really has gone away. Not a lot of strong oak wood or rye, but a lot of cinnamon, a lot of vanilla, and that herbalness that stands out. All right, so let's go in for number 2, the sip. Good. I mean, Evan Williams is a good, solid bourbon. A lot of sweetness, caramel up front. Get a lot more of that rye and a lot of that oak back in there. Again, not super long lasting, but good sweetness, good caramel, just a good, solid bourbon. All right, let's go for a sip. Wow. Totally different. I will say that. The taste is a lot different. You get a lot more of the rye. The rye just explodes out of this right off the bat. You get a lot of that sweetness, and then you get a lot of that oak and rye tingle across the back. It almost, honestly, takes it, classic bourbon, into a rye. A lot of spiciness, a lot of tingle. You get a cinnamon. You get a light caramel taste, but a lot of that rye, a lot of that cinnamon, a lot of that oak, a lot of that tingly tongue sensation comes out of this glass. All right, second sip here out of the tea and oak infusion. So, the one thing I will say, there's not a lot of sweetness up front. It comes across fairly muted, but as soon as it hits kind of the mid palate, that's when the flavors of the cinnamon and rye really explode out of this. And then as it rolls into the finish, you get a lot more of that oak and some sweetness on the back end. So very unique flavoring here. Let's go in for one more comparison of the two, and we'll be back in just a moment. All right, we've gone back and forth, sampled it both, focused on the initial sip, we've focused on the mid palate, focused on the finish. Here would be my final conclusion here. A couple things that I think the infusion does better. I think the tea and the oak almost made it a little bit more rounded. Again, Evan Williams has a little bit of the harshness of alcohol kind of on the back end. It's a little sharp. This kind of takes it away, a lot of those kind of ethanol-y, alcohol-y kind of burn. It removes that and almost makes it a little bit more rounded, easier to sip. I would say this one comes across a lot easier to drink than this. I will say the classic caramel and vanilla bourbon flavors are better here. You lose a lot of that kind of caramel, butterscotch, brown sugar flavoring in this, and instead it's replaced with more of that herbal cinnamon vanilla. It's I would say probably has a little bit too much of the black tea herbal infusion. If I were to go back and do this over again, I would probably cut the time in half. We did 10 minutes of a soak. I would maybe do 3 to 5 minutes only, just to get a hint of that herbalness. But I love the spiciness of it. I love the back end of the oak and the sweetness that you get kind of on the back end that kind of rolls through. So I would say this slightly. I would say this did improve the overall flavor of it. Again, I think the aroma, the smell is probably better with this, but I definitely think if you're looking for a spicier herbal, rye, oak flavor, this would definitely be something that I think would be a very good option for you, is to take a bottle and adding in some infusion of the tea and the oak. I would like to see the oak stick added back into this and then maybe sit for another month just to see if that oak is infused even more. Overall, I do think this improved. I definitely would not put this up with any kind of classic, more expensive aged bourbons. I think those still are way better than this, but I would say this would be a great mixer in a cocktail. I think you could add this into some different old fashions that you'd get a little bit more of some of that herbal cinnamon vanilla spice that would come out with the sweetness and the citrusy of an old fashioned. So I would tell you, give it a try. I think there's some unique flavors that come out of this. So there you go. There's our final verdict. We think it slightly improved it. I think there's still some more fine tuning that I would do, but overall, definitely worth the experiment to try. I would encourage you, go get a bottle, grab some tea and oak, and give it a try. So thank you so much for tuning in. Again, stay tuned. We have an exciting March coming up here. We're going to be doing a March Madness Rye Rumble. We're taking 20 of our ryes and going to do a bracket breakdown to kind of see who is the best rye that we have. And so please stay tuned, follow us, subscribe, and we'll see you again.